Hey everybody, welcome back to Feedback Loop. I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Joey.
And this is episode 102. We're just going to say that now.
Okay, cool. We're just saying the episode number.
We're just saying it for continuity purposes at this point.
Well, I like that as an intro, and I'm sure over the next few episodes it will sound way more natural than that did.
Nah. This whole podcast thrives on unnatural conversational flow. Speaking of, what'd you listen to this past fortnight, Joey? I feel like I had a lot of promises, and I did not keep most of them.
Dude, I kept none of my promises. I'm going to go ahead and let you know. But there's one promise that I didn't make last week, but I made a while ago that I kept. And I finally got around to really sitting down and giving Hushed and Grim the time that it deserved.
Dude.
And holy shit, dude. It is such a good album. Like, I don't know if it necessarily tops, like, I've kind of struggled with this.
We're talking Mastodon albums now, right?
Yeah, the whole episode. But I will say it is, if not my new favorite, it is a close to, just because of the atmosphere of the whole album.
Yeah.
Like, I looked at it, and it's like an hour and a half long, and it seemed a little intimidating, which I think is possibly at the beginning why I didn't give it the time it deserved, because I've been listening to a bunch of like 30-minute albums and stuff, but I finally did it. It didn't seem like an hour and a half. Like, honestly, sitting down, not looking at the track list, not looking at the time, not watching the songs change, it did not feel like an hour and a half. It felt like I was just sucked into another world, and it was just... And I feel like Mastodon's ability to create atmospheres is what I like so much about them. Like, you can just listen to an album and zone out, and they really fucking hit it with Hushed and Grim.
I agree. I obviously, I think I've said this, I think Hushed and Grim is my favorite Mastodon album. Is yours then Crack the Sky? Are you a Crack the Sky guy? Or are you the older, like Blood Mountain kind of thing?
I was Blood Mountain for a long time, but then I think I switched to Leviathan at a certain point. But now I'm kind of like, I'm really digging their newer stuff. Like, even some stuff on Emperor of Sand, was that the album? Yeah, even some stuff on that I really, really enjoy. And then Cold Black Night. Was that the name of the EP?
Cold Dark Place.
Cold Dark Place, not Cold Black Night. What is Edgar Allan Poe?
This is basically the same.
But I really liked that. So a lot of their newer stuff I've been really enjoying. But
that's what I like in that, like, Cold Dark Place was like a Dirty Behinds kind of vibe, right? And it feels like that's kind of bleeding into Hushed and Grim, especially on tracks like The Beast that just have that kind of like twang to them almost, and just let Brent kind of exist and experiment with his shit. Not that they've like repressed him before or anything, but it I guess it's his new sound, or his, just the way that he's kind of making music now, and it's fucking phenomenal.
Hell yeah.
Unlike you listening to an hour and a half long album. This past fortnight I listened to something that I mentioned at the end of last episode. It was a promise kept. That was the artist name Carol's Daughter, and the album is Please Put Me in a Medically Induced Coma. It's an 18-minute album and has like 7 tracks, so very much a staunch difference. Staunch? Is that a word?
Sure. It is now.
It is now. It's a staunch difference from an hour and a half Mastodon experience. But I actually just listened to it today because I was like, man, I have all this shit on my backlog that I haven't listened to in the last fortnight, so I'm gonna give some new takes. So I haven't invested a ton of time into it. I listened to it a few times because it's like 18 minutes long, but pretty cool, pretty interesting little punk rock kind of. I don't want to say it's punk rock. Some of it's punk rock, but it kind of captures a lot of like teen angst, like punk rock would do, and it's kind of fun sometimes.
That is fun. That's what I love about punk, is like, it doesn't even necessarily have to sound like how you would think punk feels, but you can just hear music that's made with like a punk ethos. Just be like, this is fucking punk rock.
It's just angsty. It's just angsty.
You're just like, I feel like it's great. Speaking of, I guess maybe it's not punk rock, but folkier. I've been listening to the Mountain Goats. They have an album, Tallahassee. I've listened to it before, and I've listened to it a decent amount before, and it's one of their bigger albums. But in the Mountain Coats, I feel like are a big band. At least a lot of people know them. Was a podcast that was called like I Only Listen to the Mountain Goats, where it was just like musicians who had been inspired by the Mountain Goats came on and like talked about how much they love Mastodon, or not Mastodon, the Mountain.
Yeah, that's this podcast, Joey.
Wouldn't that be some shit if we had a podcast that was like, I only listen to Mastodon, and we came on and only talked about other bands? Like,
yeah. I've not heard of the Mountain Goats, by the way, so I feel like now I'm in a minority, which is cool.
I mean, they're cool. I originally heard of them through John Green, the YouTube man. He was one of the vlog brothers. He always talked about the Mountain Goats, and I had heard a few of their bigger hits before and just never like attributed it to them. But and Alyssa got me listening to him a lot too. But yeah, they've got really good songwriting, and I definitely want to dive deeper into a lot of their. I haven't heard many of their newer albums, so that's the promise that I'm gonna break for next week.
Yes, I do have a link for kind of folksy and moving in a folksy direction, and that kind of vibe. Black Country New Road. Black Road New Country. I said it backwards, didn't I? Or is it Black Country New Road? I don't know. I listened to their previous album.
Okay, yeah.
Over the past few weeks, which is called For the First Time, I think. YouTube has it labeled as an EP, but it's an actual like album, and it's a trip. Just to like because like I don't think it's super old. It was like 2018, 2019-ish, I think. But it's so like interesting how much they've grown, and you can clearly hear like there are bands where like their first album's kind of like rough and raw, and then they kind of like Mastodon, right? I mean, Mastodon's kind of changed their tone, so maybe this isn't the best example, but they refine themselves over time. And I feel like with the newer Black Country New Road, I need to look this up before
I'm pretty sure it's Black Country New Road.
Black Country New Road. Their newer album sounds so polished and so like clean and fine, and going back to listen to their previous album, it's still like pretty refined, but you can tell like this was a starting place for something. So it's kind of just like an unpolished version of what you're getting on the newer album, which is kind of fun to see and fun to listen to, because I mean obviously we both enjoyed that album, so like taking that step back, I think you would really enjoy it, because it kind of has more of like the pure essence, I guess, of that stuff. We're doing hand gestures that you guys can't see because we don't do video yet, but yeah, it's got that, it's like just it's so pure, and I think it's worth a listen.
That is a promise that I'm going to try my hardest to keep, is me saying right now that I'm going to listen to that album by next episode, because God, I should have done that back when I really liked their first album, but I just didn't. Man, I don't know. Speaking of unpolished things, I guess, I found a band called Hard Fi in the discount bin at Dollar Tree the other day.
Damn.
I just was, we were in there. I don't know what we were doing.
You're underground now. Yeah, you're digging.
We were just like in Dollar Tree, and this may come as a shock to you, but I didn't really care too much about their music once I looked at but it was just like I was looking at the CDs, because much like we've talked about before, like you've said, looking at like a YouTube thumbnail for Black Country New Road, that Concord song, that's what pulled you in. I'll do that same thing with album covers, of course, because that's what album covers are meant to do. But I was looking there and saw an album by them, and I was just like, that seems interesting. Went home, looked them up, and the album wasn't on Spotify, so I just listened to their greatest hits. Or like a compilation. It was like one of those like the years 2003 through 2014, whatever. But they're kind of like a UK punk indie rock type band, and like it's fine, but I didn't really care too much.
Swing and a miss.
Yeah, and I figured I'd highlight it just because it was like a weird thing. Like we were just there trying to get some. I don't even remember what we were there for, and it was just like, I was super into like, I'm gonna look up this band when I get home and listen to their music.
So you couldn't be bothered to buy the CD. Just looked at the CD and we're like, okay. Well, you're window shopping.
That's the jaded world that we live in now, where
It
it's
is.
like I already pay for a service that gives me unlimited music, so I'm like I see stuff, and I I guess buying stuff from Dollar Tree, it's like I know no revenue of that purchase. Buying
Yeah.
an album for $1.25 is going to, because it's not, Dollar Tree's not fucking $1 anymore. It's $1.25. It's like everything's $1.25.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I know none of that's going to the band, so I don't feel guilty about not buying it, especially because I didn't care too much about the music. But it was just
That's fair.
like,
They probably get more revenue from the stream anyway.
yeah,
From you listening to it. I think it's interesting that like that's an option. That's a thing that happens, and that like previously, I mean, you kind of teased this, I suppose, in that like previously people would go to album like record stores, and they would look at album art to determine what albums they were going to buy and take home and listen to, and that money's already spent.
yeah,
So like you're taking a risk, I guess. You're spending some cash on an album that you may or may not like, based purely on a painting or a
yeah,
picture of what the artist thought would describe their album, or at least sell you the album. I mean, a lot, like obviously, like in the '80s, there was a lot of like sex appeal and stuff on album
yeah,
covers and stuff. So not necessarily describing the music in that case, but like it's just so wild that that's such a different thing. I mean, record stores obviously still exist, and vinyl's obviously making a resurgence. I'm collecting vinyl. You have some vinyl. People like collecting vinyl. I like physical media in general,
yeah.
but I still haven't let go of CDs. I buy CDs. Well, okay, I guess I haven't bought a CD in a while.
But you
It's
have bought
it's been a
one.
while. I
You've
bought one
bought
in the last
one.
5 years.
Yeah,
I've bought several in the last 5 years, I'd say. But yeah, it's interesting that that is that is such a strange adaptation, I suppose, is looking at covers in a store and then not buying it but going online and listening to it that way instead. It's just kind of interesting to me.
yeah. It's a really weird, because it's, I think part of the reason I even figured I would talk about it this week is because it kind of gave me the thought that like whenever you I've seen people, and I know people, there's people in my family who have these big record collections,
Yeah.
and you'll hear them say stuff like, yeah, that one's not really that good, or like, I this, like, you don't want to look like, but, and then you're, me as a person who lives and kind of grew up in the era that we have right now. Like when I was a kid, it was still like you buy CDs, there
Yeah.
wasn't streaming, there wasn't that, but I've been around long enough and kind of reached adulthood in this era where you have everything online,
Hmm.
who you'd never look at me and ask me about like my CD collection, and I would never have a
Yeah.
bad thing to say about any of them, because I knew going in there was
What you were
no,
getting.
yeah,
Yeah.
there was no risk, because it's like I could look it up online. I never have to deal with music or spending money on music or any sort of physical media that I don't already know I love. So there's no risk to any of that, and I feel like we're kind of losing something in that, because in buying an album that or not buying, not even buying it, and seeing an album and looking it up, and it was an album I didn't like, I gained like, I remember it now. It's an
Yeah.
experience
Yeah.
that I
You have a
remember.
story.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something that we don't get a lot, where it's like, oh yeah, I bought that vinyl and it was just absolute shit. You don't have something to put on at a party and be like, look at this weird music that I found or whatever. Isn't this
Yeah.
weird, wacky? Like nobody, I don't know. It'd be like going into a video store and buying The Room, the movie, for just think, because you looked at it and you're like, ah,
Yeah.
what's this good? And you bring it home and you're like, I've discovered gold, but like in the bad way. Like
Yeah.
I feel like stuff like
Yeah.
that doesn't happen as much.
That's interesting. Yeah. I don't think I have taken a chance on a purchase necessarily for music. And I the closest thing that I've come to that is buying like CDs from the opening acts of bands that I've gone and seen,
Hmm.
just as like I don't say it's like a pity thing, but like I like supporting like upcoming artists and stuff. So if I go and see a concert, I'll usually buy a shirt, and if the opening band is something that's vaguely interesting to me, I'll buy the Brains. I bought the Brains
Oh yeah,
Out in the Dark CD, when I went and saw them with Avatar, because I was like, yeah, this shit's pretty cool. Like, I'll buy it. Obviously, I'm not like in love with that album, but like I don't regret purchasing it. I don't think it's bad music at all. I think there are some of those scenarios that have given me like music that I don't listen to anymore. Like, there's a band called Iron Tom, I think, that I have a CD for that I started to listen to maybe once and then never finished it, never bothered, because it just wasn't the right vibe. So I think you're right, and that's it. I don't think it's a good or bad thing inherently that like we're missing out on buying bad music,
missing out on wasting money.
But it's the climate, the culture is different now,
Yeah.
where it's easy to access music and it's so easy to like find shit that you do like and filter out shit that you don't like. And I think in that experience it's different, not necessarily bad. However, bad music is what we're talking now. Not really. I can't say that. The idea of this next album sounded horrible to me, and I think this was an interesting experience. So the album I'm talking about is called Everybody Wins, and the album was created by a Twitch streamer that I watch. The only streamer that I watch. He plays video games, and he created a concept album because it was from like a charity. He did like a charity Tetris-a-thon thing. He loves playing Tetris, and one of the stretch goals was that he would make a concept album, and he would make it with the chat group, that people that watch his stream or whatever. So they hit the stretch goal. They decided on the idea. The concept of the album was going to be one song for every ending of like some old video game that they had played on stream or whatever, that had some really fucking weird endings. Like, one of them, they were all cavemen, I think, and they were all like, the endings were all how they evolved into other things. One of which was just like a floating penis in space. And one of which they just decided to become plants, and one of them they became robots. I don't know. It's really fucking weird. But he cannot sing. And this was kind of inspiring to me because like he recorded all of his demos on stream, like with people watching, and he would just like, they would mock up some lyrics and he'd sing it, and he wasn't criticizing his vocals or anything necessarily too bad. Like, he would do a couple takes, but eventually he released his demos, and he gave the demos to chat, and chat remixed them. All of these people from this community just kind of got in together, and they were like, yeah, like let's make these things good from what he did. And then everyone submitted their entries, and then he played them on the stream, and then everyone like voted for which ones they liked better, and that's how they got the finished product of the album. And it's so like fascinating, and it's so like inspiring that like there's all these people that are just like, yeah, like let's fucking make a remix of some weird chat or some weird like Twitch streamer singing a song that he wrote about a video game. Like, just that whole experience was a blast, and the album's actually really fun to listen to. And I'm curious to hear your perspective on it, just because you don't have the full context of like being invested in the streams and watching it be made just as an end product. It's called Everybody Wins. I'll send you a link to it.
Okay.
I don't know if it's easily available on like Spotify or things yet.
There's
one
on
SoundCloud.
There's one on Spotify by Dried Spider. Is that
does not sound like
okay?
but yeah, I'll send that to you. But yeah, so it was just like this weird, like inspiring and like kind of heartwarming experience to see these people just kind of like having fun making music. Whereas most of the time when I'm making music, I'm criticizing the shit out of myself and like overthinking things, and like he just shits them out. He's like, yeah, like it doesn't matter. He's not trying to think in terms of like, oh man, my vocals are going to be like phenomenal and like my lyrics are going to make so much sense. He just kind of like did it and then put it out there, and then everyone in his community just kind of like took it and made it something else. And it was just a fun experience.
That collaboration is definitely something I feel like hearing that story makes me think that I'm going to like it.
Yeah.
Just because, I don't know, I'm not a stickler for, it's the running joke. I'm not a stickler for good music. Like, I don't need, the music doesn't have to be good for me to like it. And yeah, I feel like that's just a super cool idea where it's like the collaborative effort of, which is why I like stuff like Plunderphonics and like remixing so much, is because it's a collaborative effort with a lot of people coming together to create, because everybody like how they always say like everybody's got a good book in them, everybody's got like whatever, everybody has a good song in them at least, and I feel
Yeah.
like if you get the right person, the right material, they're going to be able to make something super cool. So give everybody access to all the material so they can try to make cool songs.
Yeah, there's definitely some cool things on there. I'll send you links to them after this after we get done recording today, and I'll post them.
Yeah,
I'll put them in the description maybe of this episode when we put it up somewhere
yeah,
so people
people
can find it.
listen to them. Shit, man. I only have one other thing that I was listening to a decent amount,
Go
and
for it.
it's also an album that I've heard before, but it just was right again. I was kind of feeling like I needed to listen to some older like core type metal. I don't know, like metal core, like post rock, whatever that early 2000s stuff is.
Yeah.
And there's a band called Converge, and I listened to their album Jane Doe again. And at the time that it came out, I think it was ahead of its time, and then it kind of like paved the way for a certain sound that persisted through the 2000s and into like 2009 ish. It's got like some really harsh and screamy stuff, but it just sounds good to me. And I never listened to it back when it came out. I listened to it like a couple years later, whenever that stuff was big. But it just amps me up in a way that I typically don't even want music to do. But it's just like I'm okay with that album
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It makes me want to jump around and like be in a mosh pit again. It makes me want to be like 15, go into like a I don't know. I have a very vivid memories of seeing All That Remains, Kill Switch Engage, Cannibal Corpse, and Whitechapel at the same show, and it was just like this insanity. Like everybody was just like beating the shit out of each other. It was just
Yeah.
a crazy time. But it makes me want that again.
Yeah, I love those albums that are just like they're so perfectly capturing a moment in your past and in time, just like just the vibes of it all. And that shit's fun to always revisit. In a semi-related note, I was actually thinking about this earlier of kind of diving into some like older screamo, like emo kind of things. I didn't listen to we talked about it last week. You said your brother recommended it
Oh,
to
the
you.
Origami Angel.
That's the one.
Uh,
Yeah, I
yeah,
have that. It's on my backlog now, but I did not get a chance to listen to it. Maybe I'll make time for it. But instead of like the Midwest emo, just kind of the more whiny, like
yeah,
the kind of man that sounds like a girl kind of screamo stuff that's been on my mind this for the past couple days. Like, man, maybe I should dive into that. Maybe now's
yeah.
the time that I give it a fair shake
Do
because I
it.
mean, obviously it was laughed about throughout high school and
I mean,
shit for
it
me.
was, and
For
it's
me, I was laughing at people listening to that kind of music. So
we were too. My whole friend group was. We were like, they're the fake metalheads because we're the real
yeah,
metalheads that
yeah,
listen to folk metal from Sweden or whatever. Like, we're the real
yeah,
metalhead. Like, whatever, dude.
yeah. You
Now
were
that I'm
listening to
not.
fucking "Shipping Up to Boston" by the Dropkick Murphys, and you
Oh,
thought that made you cooler.
dude, I was listening to Amon Amarth and I thought that made me cooler. But for
Hell yeah,
real, Dropkick Murphys are a band that is so close to my heart. I actually
I
have.
know. That's how I was targeting you.
Okay. I was about to say I have signed, sealed, and delivered on vinyl, and it's great. But yeah,
Coming
I don't.
up,
Yeah, coming up. I don't
I
have.
have a huge list.
Oh,
So,
dude, go for it then, please do.
hey, Helms Ali has a new album. They just
What?
released a new album in the past like week. It's called "Keep This Be the Way."
Oh my
Uh,
god!
I saw that and I was like, I need to check that out. Also, even before I saw that, last time I actually meant to have this as a to do on my list because it crossed my mind, and that is some like Christian music that I listened to when I was younger. There are a couple albums that stand out to me in my history of me actually enjoying them, and it's not like Skillet or like some Christian band trying to be edgy and cool. It was just like modern contemporary kind of Christian music, and it wasn't necessarily like praise music even. It was just like some like maybe rock. Maybe that might be giving it a bit too much to call it rock, but there were a couple of album like artists like Chris Rice and like Paul Coleman Trio, I think is one of them. So I kind of want to dive into that and see if I still think it sounds good because I liked it back in the day, and
Yeah,
I honestly think that I'll still enjoy it Just because God. I feel like even back then I knew what was like cringy, I guess, in relation to Christian music, and I didn't like it. But there are a couple that stand out to me. It's like, yeah, I actually really enjoyed it from a musical standpoint.
Shit, man. Wanting to listen to Christian music.
Yeah.
That's a concept.
It's a weird time. It's a weird time in my life, I guess. Not that I plan on converting to Christianity or anything, but just those albums were on my mind.
Man, well, I'm glad you have stuff to look forward to. Because, I have the Helms Ali album now, so...
The Kendrick Lamar album is going to be out in 2 weeks, I think.
In 2 weeks?
I think so. I think it'll be within this fortnight. I don't remember what the title is.
I thought it was coming out like May 24th. Is that the day? I thought.
Oh, maybe is it? Is it actually in the next fortnight? I don't know. I feel like it was sometime soon. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But Florence and the Machine has an album coming up. Sigrid's album. Sigrid. I did end up listening to Sigrid over the past fortnight a little bit, and I wasn't super impressed. But I do still want to check out her new album because why not? That's what I've been looking for. And there are a couple of other artists that they're like some electronic albums that are out / coming out soon. I think they're both out. There's one that I just found today that I know is out called Planet Oasis by Just a Gent, who is someone I've never listened to. And I gave it a quick peep and I was like, yeah, I'm into this. So I want to listen to that. And then I think Liquid Stranger is another one that has a new album that I've never listened to them, but I'm interested enough to check it out. Oh, and fucking Robert Plant and Alison Krauss. Their newer album that came out last year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to a couple tracks from it the other night, and I was like, "This is really good." So I wanna dive into that album fully.
Man, I want to see them live.
That'd be fantastic.
My dad did, and he said it was amazing. He got a bootleg copy of the concert on CD.
That's fun.
And
physical media, man.
Yeah, I got to see Robert Plant and the Band of Joy a couple of years ago. A couple. It was probably 10 years ago. Honestly, at this point, it was a fucking while ago. But it was a really good show.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah, man. Kendrick Lamar's new album is May 13th. By the way, I don't know where I got May 24th from. So that's in 10 days.
Yeah. So spoilers, we're recording on May 3rd.
Yeah, we're really dating this episode.
So yeah, that one will come out the weekend before we record our next episode.
Yeah. So we both better talk about it.
Yeah, or we won't, and then feel bad about it. But it is what it is. Wet Leg, and I didn't listen to Wet Leg either.
Why not?
I just didn't. I have so many things on my backlog that I just haven't listened to, and I feel like shit about it. Joey, you have a stink bug on your left shoulder.
Yeah, that happens. There's a ton of them. They're just all over the fucking house.
He's just crawling around. I'm just watching them.
Dude, I was about to go into a whole story. We're almost about to wrap this up. I don't need to go, and it'd be disgusting. Okay, you know what? I will go into it.
Oh shit! Okay,
it's really quick. So so I make my coffee. I pour over. I do the pour over. I don't make it like a drip coffee from a machine. He's on my neck now, so I'm gonna get him off. But yeah, I just do the pour over. So I boil water and pour it into a thing that's over my coffee cup that I put the grounds in, and then it drips down from that thing. So it was late at night, and I was making coffee because I was about to go up and play games until early in the morning, and I was like, I need coffee. It was dark, so I make my coffee. I go upstairs, drink it. Everything's fine. I come back down, and I'm about to do dishes just to try to get it cleaned up. There's a fucking stink bug embedded in the grounds of the coffee that I made. So I think I had made stink bug.
You drank some stink bug coffee.
Yeah.
Did it taste good?
No, it tasted like coffee.
I guess coffee's a pretty strong taste. So
I noticed nothing different about it, but
that's where stink bug got boiled alive.
Yeah. They're all over the place, though. I don't know where they come from.
To me too, man. Stink bugs. Just stay tuned next time when we talk about nothing but stink bugs, because that's consuming our lives out here in fucking middle of nowhere, Indiana. Not really the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, we're kind of close. I'm closer to the middle of nowhere than you are.
Rural Indiana.
There we go.
Suburban to rural. We're not in suburbs. We're more rural than that. You're definitely more rural.
We're whatever's in between the two.
Yeah, we're not Hicks, but we're not cool
Sticks
people.
either.
Sticks and Hicks and Ricks and